Now, once the bookshelf is secured and locked, which takes just a matter of seconds, the would-be shooter will have no access inside the room and will only be met with this mirror. And that accident happened right here on the intersection of Forest Street and MLK Drive. It happened last Tuesday. At the time, there were many unanswered questions. Among them, whether or not council member Amy DeGise was behind the wheel. If she stopped, did she slow down? It turns out she did none of the above. And now many are calling for her to step down. You could say it was a very eventful and tragic past few hours here in New Jersey. Now, as you mentioned, there's a search and rescue effort underway here in Passaic, where a couple who were traveling in a car, they were taken away by the water. We spoke to a witness who saw the whole thing. Very traumatizing, as you could imagine. And earlier in the night, a 70-year-old man also traveling by car was submerged, and he also was confirmed dead. Now, part of the allure of this milk crate challenge is that it looks pretty easy, right? The problem is these pyramids are getting as tall as 10 feet high, and that in itself is a formula for disaster. Well, describing her as compassionate to the kindest soul they've ever met, the friends and family of Maria Ambrosia are still trying to wrap their head around this tragedy. Now, many of them traveled from Hudson County, where she lived, to pay tribute to their friend, who they say was simply at the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, given the theme of Christmas and children, I decided to bring my son Gabriel along for the ride today. Gabriel, you ready to go shopping?
Yes.
Here's my credit card. Got the credit card? Do you have any idea of what I'm going to want for Christmas?
Presents.
Presents! All right, now go get them. Go crazy. And by go crazy, I mean don't go over $30.
You want to figure out a gift for Mommy or Daddy?
Well, the process of creating the magic that we see every year at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is a year-long effort that unravels here at the Macy's studio in Moonachie, New Jersey. And I don't know why, but I have the sudden urge to do one of these right now. Well, we all know the expression, a lot can happen in a year. Well, in the case of Governor Murphy, a lot can happen in 4 years. It was right here in 2017 in Passaic County, where supporters came out in full force for the governor. Now, based on last night's results, a lot of that support has dwindled, allowing for his challenger, Jack Ciattarelli, to really gain ground here in the county, making this race a whole lot more interesting.
I wanted to come out here tonight because I had prepared one hell of a victory speech.
Not necessarily a victory lap for Jack Ciattarelli, but it's close to it. The Republican underdog continues to shock Democrats in the blue-leaning Garden State, a day after what has become a nail-biter of a gubernatorial election where many thought the favored Governor Murphy had the race in the bag.
We're going to lower property taxes. We're going to make this a better place to do business.
In what could be best described as a seesaw of a day, both Ciattarelli and Murphy took the lead at various points. In one striking hour, the candidates separated by a mere 122 votes. According to preliminary numbers, what made the race this close was the overwhelming turnout Ciattarelli received in traditionally red counties like Ocean and Monmouth. Zeroing in on families and education was also a game changer for the campaign.
This is absolutely based on issues and what the people of New Jersey, I mean, we are a suburban state. We want to be involved in our children's lives.
Even though it's not on the curriculum in New Jersey, political observers say hot-button issues like critical race theory gave the Ciattarelli campaign the edge.
I feel like the Republicans kind of pushed it to get the vote out. It seemed to have worked.
For supporters, they say it was his charm and promise to put a pause on Governor Murphy's progressive agenda that helped lock in their vote.
I think that Ciattarelli was kind of like an everyman, where he really looked for what people were saying, what people were crying out for.
Everything they stand for, New Jersey's turned in such a direction, I think, a direction that no one wanted to go, and it showed with the votes, I guess.
Now, the Ciattarelli campaign held no public events today, but a spokesperson for the campaign released a statement earlier saying that the team is now focused on making sure that all legal votes are counted, and officials are already warning that that will probably take a couple of days. We're live in Wayne tonight. I'm Andrew Ramos, Pix 11 News.
This past 28 years has been a living hell, to be honest.
Foster Thompson speaks by telephone from Sing Sing Correctional Facility. The 57-year-old has been locked up for nearly 3 decades. Convicted in a murder he says he did not commit.
You think you got everything, everything you need to show that you're absolutely innocent of this case, and still, the courts don't give you, that they just ignore the evidence.
That evidence, his attorney claims, clears Thompson from the murder of Cynthia Browning, a suspected drug dealer killed in a 1992 fatal robbery at a housing project in New Brighton. Another man, Alton Staley, was also wounded but survived. After 2 missed trials, a jury ultimately convicted Thompson of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Decades later, a videotaped confession of the purported killer, not released to the public until now, has the potential to change everything.
He took out a revolver and he handed it to me, and he had one in his hand.
This is probably one of the strongest post-judgment conviction motions that I've seen, minus DNA.
The video, along with new testimony from a witness and a claim that the district attorney withheld crucial evidence, uncovered by Abe George, Thompson's attorney. He's been working for nearly a decade to get Thompson's conviction overturned. The videotaped admission by David Clark, or as many in the neighborhood knew him, Jamaican Tony, places him along with an accomplice he identified as Juan and not Thompson at the murder scene.
Here we have a witness that says, I was the guy that used the weapon out in Staten Island. And then we have another witness that says, yeah, Foster Thompson wasn't there, it was Jamaican Tony. And if that isn't enough to get yourself a new trial or a reversal of your conviction, I don't know what else is.
But earlier this year, a Staten Island judge ruled it wasn't enough for a new trial. Writing in a 37-page decision, there were what he deemed inconsistencies in witnesses' testimony.
It's never going to be justice out here. Never, ever.
When he said that, that he had denied the motion, I literally took all the air out of me. I thought I was suffocating.
You can't just say that when the witness comes forward and says something contradictory to what was said at trial, that's inconsistent.
Overturning a conviction in New York City at one point was an unimaginable feat, but in recent years, it's happened. In Brooklyn alone, 28 people have been exonerated, largely due to the Conviction Review Unit in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. Here on Staten Island, while funding does exist for a unit, critics say it hasn't done much of anything.
If you don't have a wrongful conviction unit, that means that you're starting with the premise that all of our convictions have integrity. We didn't make a mistake in the past. And I think that if you look at what happened in this city in the 90s, it was quite possible that convictions throughout the boroughs, there was a rush to judgment.
In a statement to Pix 11, the Richmond County District Attorney's Office says it takes every allegation of a wrongful conviction seriously. In the case of Foster Thompson, a thorough review was conducted and their office found no credible evidence to set aside the jury's verdict and overturn a conviction. As for the office's Conviction Integrity Review Unit, which was established just last year, COVID-19 related budget cuts will result in its closure at the end of the year. A spokesperson tells Pix 11 despite that, the DA's office will continue to dedicate resources to investigating allegations of wrongful convictions. This week, Thompson's legal team filed one last request to a federal court asking it to take a second look at their post-judgment motion, as they believe their client's constitutional rights were violated. Thompson remains optimistic.
I'm hopeful, man. I'm hopeful. God knows, man. Yeah, this guy's innocent, man.
I'm Andrew Ramos, Pix 11 News.